yet have a quorum. We will have a quorum shortly, I believe. So because our speaker is coming at 12:30, I would like to start my report. So welcome to our March Transit Riders Council meeting. Not as miserable a day as they predicted, so that's good. And obviously we're all celebrating, not all, but most of us are celebrating a big day yesterday here at MTA. It's been years in the making, but congestion pricing was passed by an 11-1 vote by the MTA board. And so we now await the courts, and there was going to be a hearing, I believe, like April 5th. And we will see what happens with the major lawsuit from New Jersey on environmental grounds and other grounds. And we will see how that gets adjudicated and see if we have to remain in court or if we can begin to address the June startup date of congestion pricing. Sooner we do that, the sooner the capital program can resume and a lot of important projects and maintenance can get on way. Thank you, Tara. So there were lots of speakers yesterday, and there were a couple of protests, as Jesse knows, because he has put it up on the screen of what happened to him. Hope you're feeling better today, Jesse, and great. And thanks to everybody who testified, however you testified, and you took the time to come out and express your feelings. And yes, the two gripes I'm talking about as well, and many, many others. So, who's that, Taylor?
Morning.
It's afternoon, but that's okay.
Oh, sorry, I got a sick teenager. Come around.
So we await what will happen now with the courts. And obviously we will all be following that very, very closely. One of the changes that was made to the congestion pricing program is some new exemptions or inclusions, however you would like to word it. Clarifications. Yellow school buses with contracts with the New York City Board of Ed are now exempt from the fee. Commuter buses such as Megabus and Hampton Jitneys, who have regular scheduled departures, are now exempted. And since they are taking cars out of the area in favor of mass transit, that's a good thing, I believe.
Yes.
And city vehicles that are traveling for business within the congestion zone are now exempted. Okay. Stuart, do you have something to say?
No, I'm happy.
You're happy.
I thought of you, but they did make it very clear that it's not elected official cars, that it's
Absolutely.
vehicles doing.
I don't know who said it was elected officials. I heard that as well.
There were a lot of people who.
We were referenced in our agency,
So I think those are improvements. I understand and appreciate the plight of the yellow taxi cabs. They have gotten a really bad deal since the for-hire vehicles have come in, and the for-hire vehicles are a big cause of the congestion in a lot of places. The fee is going to be lower, $1.25 per ride, if your ride is in the zone or originated in the zone. But if you, for instance, I believe if you catch a yellow taxi on East 86th Street and your destination is West 100th Street, you're not subject to that fee because you will not be in the zone. I believe that's how that works. You won't have started in the zone and you won't have ended in the zone. Am I correct?
It's only if you cross into the zone.
Exactly.
If you exit the zone, you don't get an additional fee. You'll still be subject to the zone on a taxi or an Uber if you're south of 96th Street to the original one.
To the original one, right?
Right.
Did they say anything about car sharing the vehicles like zip cars or?
No, I think.
Yeah, that's just a car.
That's just a rental car.
Yeah.
Okay.
So what about, I'm sorry, I have a question. Maybe I missed it, but what about cars that have the special parking plaque? Because I went to the DMV to have my license plate switched over to the blue plaque. To the blue license plate or the wheelchair license plate. And they want to charge an extra $80, $60 to $80 to change it over. How can I guarantee when I'm driving in? Because You know, you and I
Yeah.
smiled about the plaques
Yeah.
being a little flimsy.
So the MTA added, before this clarification, about a month ago, they introduced an additional exemption for disabled drivers.
Okay.
That's the
It's
IDEP.
60 day, and that's something that we can clarify further with John McCarthy when he comes. But 60 days in advance of implementation of congestion pricing, there'll be a process and opportunity for you to register your vehicle.
Okay.
So that you will get the exemption.
And Hugh mentioned it at a special meeting last month about it as well. There's more details to it, as Lisa's correct on.
What happens when the FDR drive is closed 5 times a week for car accidents and they divert you off the highway? And you're going from uptown to the battery tunnel. And that is an accident. They close the FDR,
Question for John McCarthy.
they close the FDR drive.
Well, let's John.
We'll ask John, because that is obviously
Which the FDR is closed 5 times a week for an accident.
extenuating circumstances.
Yes.
Yes. Karen, just to your message on the screen, it was 11-1 vote, not 16-1.
Still impressive.
Yeah,
Oh,
there were two.
yeah, still impressive. Okay. I thought you said 16
Absolutely.
to 1. I was like, wow.
There are 6 non-voting members, and there are 4 members who have 1 vote collectively.
I see.
And
Okay.
there were 2 voting members who were not present,
But they would want,
Dr. Rizzo and Dan Garodnick.
right,
Yeah.
but the other mayor's appointee said that if Dan had been there, he would have voted yes.
Oh, of course. Of course. It's going to be interesting to watch this. We now have a new crackdown on fare evasion. It's called Fair Play with FARE as opposed to FAIR. It's 800 additional officers who will be monitoring locations that are known to have bad fare evasion. Every place I go, I see fare evasion, so,
Yeah.
but I guess there are some that are a lot worse than others.
Oh, I was at the event just now with
Yes,
with the mayor, the police commissioner, 20, maybe 40 cops
Mhm.
and 30 TV cameras and press people. And everyone's like, oh, guy just jumped right there. With all the cameras rolling in front of the police commissioner.
it's the thing to do now.
I
That's,
forgot, Lisa, they also did it in Atlantic too. We were there, remember? They did that too.
The police commissioner wasn't there.
Yeah, but
Well, so you know, that's 1,000 police officers in 2 months being reassigned to transit. You just lost 1,000 police officers in your neighborhood.
Exactly.
absolutely.
So what did you do?
And it's not really effective.
It's not train patrol.
Social media and TikTok, you know, it's challenged to show that we can.
Oh, yeah, it's the thing to do. Stick it to the man.
Oh, and definitely on the buses.
Oh, the buses are worse, much worse.
No, especially because you have a certain stop, you'll get a gang of 15, 20 people because they're waiting and they'll just wind up taking over the bus almost.
Yeah, the bus operator is not going to risk their safety,
Oh.
and I don't blame them.
Walk down that South Ferry right now, all the tourists wait. One goes through,
Yeah.
you open the gate. Then you have 25 in a group. Just go,
Are these tourists from Staten Island, Scott?
no, not first percent.
Okay.
Well,
Just checking.
you should know, Andrew, that the numbers were high. Then when we had that presentation, they showed Bronx and Staten Island had the highest fare hike.
Which we don't need passports anymore. We can come right on a passport.
Oh, that's good.
That's an observation. So like, there seems to be a different response at different stations. So like, I was on the Lexington line at a low numbered station. And police were actually there actively, uniformed police were NYPD actively telling people to go back through the gate or close the gates. And then I was on the 6th Avenue line at West 4th Street and people were, the National Guard and police were just chatting, not focusing on the gate, and the contract security guard was on his cell phone.
Yes.
So, you know, if they're deploying all these people, I think we need to be on record as saying we need to have a consistent response in how they're gonna.
Oh, absolutely.
I agree.
And I think they think that just their presence is enough to deter, and it is not anymore. You've got to be watching,
Right.
and pointing and saying, don't even try it.
Right, or go
Yeah.
back or.
It all comes down to local supervision. Whoever the supervisor there is, that's the whole operation.
Setting the tone.
It all comes down to local supervision.
And some people told me in the last 2 days that they have spoken to police officers and said, why aren't you stopping these fare evaders?
Right.
And they just go like this. That's their response. And I said,
No.
I tell them, get a badge number the next time somebody does that, please.
They're stopping
They do it all the time.
people. Mhm.
And not only that, but I say, why are you standing here? And why aren't you standing and watching the fare evaders? And they say, this is where we're assigned to be.
Yep.
I don't know who's assigning them.
All right, so these are good questions to ask John. And I see Deborah has your hand raised also.
Oh, yes.
And let Deborah, and then let's let Andrew continue as well.
I'm making this really quick. For the first time, when Chris, my cousin and I were going through at near where the N and R and D is at Barclay, I
big
tapped
sign.
my card, walked through, and these two guys followed me right through. And next thing I know, the cop stopped them and said, where are you going? Oh, we're with her. And one looked at me and I went, and they also heard me saying, what the hell are they following me for? And they got arrested. And I was turned
Yes.
around, smiled and said, thank you. And that made me feel good because I'm so tired of being pushed and shoved so they can claim I let them in when I didn't. So I was happy with that.
Just for the record, that was transit 34, which they were in transit 32 district. So there is a God.
Oh, that's at least good to hear that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just wanted to give good news. Thank you.
Yesterday, we got a briefing on this new Scout program, which is to help people with mental health issues in the subway, not just homeless, but mental health issues. There is a distinction, and they were very clear about that. Scout stands for Subway Co-Response Outreach Teams. These are new mental health co-response teams that with NYC clinicians and the MTA Police Department working together. They have already helped in the 90 days this program has been in effect. 90 clients have been transferred to a hospital or a shelter. Unlike the Bowery Residence Committee, which you have heard me question, do you follow up to see how long someone has remained in care after you take them off the end of a line, middle of the night, and take them to a shelter or a service? These folks do follow up to see what has happened.
What is Scout stand?
Scout stands for Subway Co-Response Outreach Teams.
And they're finding the clients at the end of the line?
No, this group finds them wherever they are. BRC was focusing on the
They're
end
traveling
clients.
through the system?
They are.
Yes.
And they just announced today an expansion, a further expansion by the end of 2025.
Yes.
Who's paying for that, Andrew?
Of the state.
The state, but in partnership with the city also.
And it's a really, really good thing because in the polling about what would encourage you to ride the subway system or what disturbed the system, by what vast majority, it wasn't even crime, it was fewer people behaving erratically. And these folks, they need the help. You know, it's not to make us feel more comfortable. They need help. And these teams are bringing them to places that will bring them help, which is great.
How does this, is this, in terms of the budget coming out of the mental health roadmaps, how is that in conjunction?
The governor has put this in the budget.
Has put it in the same budget?
Yes.
Okay.
Absolutely.
As promised.
Karen has her hand raised.
Oh,
and
I'm
then-
sorry.
And then Andrew.
I wasn't finished, but anyway, Karen, go ahead.
Yeah, I was just curious. So, with the spate of people getting punched in the face in the subway elsewhere, those perpetrators, are they considered under this program? Is it partly mental health? I mean, I think just even the scope of mental health has expanded since COVID. There's so many people who are just barely coping or like barely care anymore. And so I'm just wondering how that's going to be addressed.
I don't know the definitive answer to your question, but one of the things that was stressed at the meeting yesterday was that these people are taking these folks aside and having conversations with them, sometimes lengthy conversations to get an idea of where they are, if they admit they might need help, if they would like help, if they understand what help means to them. It is not just someone they see who happens to be homeless, but is somebody who may be behaving erratically.
These are well-trained people, but.
Yes,
Where do they come?
It's a good approach.
Your mental health professionals.
Yeah, they're from various institutions, mental health professionals, but from various
And
institutions.
they've been hired by the city.
State.
State- Well,
City.
they're teams, you know. They want to build rapport with these folks, so they have regular conversations with them to try to see if they're okay, if they understand that they may need help, if they like the help, if they understand how long they might be once they visit them in the institution they were referred to, or the clinic or whatever. They're not just doing it and walking away, which is a great thing.
I know we're pressed for time, but so you mentioned in the short time that they're in operation, the number of clients that
Yes.
they reached. Do they have an estimate of the population that they think is out there that they would want to target? Because 90 seems small.
It is small thus far. I did hear a number that was envisioned. This says there's 2,000 unsheltered New Yorkers in the subways. They don't all need mental health care.
Right, we don't know what percentage of that.
We
group.
don't,
Okay,
but that's a scary number right there.
yes,
And it is not good for anybody to be living in the subway and inhaling rail dust 24/7. That's for sure. But this is a good program, and we look forward to having folks get the help they really need. And make people feel more comfortable riding the subway too. That's a great byproduct, obviously. There are new,
If you're discussing the mentally ill, you know that I have, but I've experienced because of my sister and everything else. And for those of you who didn't read all about my sister and me, but when Bill Bratton was heading up the transit police, I had an incident with my sister on the subway where we had to stop everything. But so I've learned a lot about the mentally ill, and there are no more mentally ill underground or anything. And I'm sorry I got here late, but Andrew knows why I did. I didn't think I'd make it, but here I am. So if any of you would really like some more information about the mentally ill above ground, below ground, because I tell you that it puts a tag on some people, or it puts a tag of mentally ill on people who are just shouldn't have it, and some who should have it and don't have it.
thank you, Trudy. That's
So
very
I'm
nice.
just
Thank
putting
you.
in my 2 cents after I shouldn't have been on
Okay,
this subway ride.
thanks. While we have a quorum now, could we get an approval of today's
Oh,
agenda?
you mean I make
Well-
quorum?
Yes.
Oh.
Motion to approve.
second.
You were
Terrific.
vital today, Trudy.
Thank you,
John
thank
will
you.
be a couple minutes late.
And how about the minutes?
Andrew, before I make approve, just want to say thank you for the comment on the minutes. And, congratulating me. So I want to say thank you.
You're welcome.
And I'd like to make a motion with that.
Any objection to approval of the minutes? Okay. There are going to be, and you may have seen it on the news, CCTV cameras placed on buses to let people know that you're being watched if you try to attack a bus operator or a fellow passenger or whatever. They had a sample bus down at 2 Broadway for a day or two, and I did not get a chance, unfortunately, to see
Check
it.
it out.
But you got a chance?
Jack did, yeah.
Jack did.
Yeah,
How did it look, Jack?
it looked good. So when you walk in, when you're looking at the bus driver, I took a video. That's when you're on camera. And then the.
Oh,
screen
just
is on
entering
your
the
left.
door. Okay.
Yeah, so,
This was only a single length bus, I assume, not an Arctic.
no, it's a double.
It was. So when you enter through a rear door, if you're using Omni or something, you're not on the camera?
You're not supposed
Yeah,
to.
you didn't use it on the bus yet.
No, let's rush away.
It's only.
On SBS, you are?
It's only in the first floor by the driver. That's the
Okay.
only spot. Yeah.
Okay, so I assume that they'll have multiple, if it's an SBS or something, you can board any door. But we'll find out. So that's something, and you probably heard me mention
It's a lot of cameras.
that they are working on partitions for the bus operators once the state approves these cameras on the outside of the buses. and they will be totally protected. They can't be spit on, punched, or anything, but you can communicate with them, obviously. So we have to, I mean, attacks on employees, as well as fellow riders is not going to be tolerated and should not be. Chair Lieber gave a really good speech about that. They are really looking to crack down on these kinds of violations. Yes,
Karen.
oh, Karen.
She put on
Oh, how we'll see. Karen, I don't know if those are monitored in real time. I think they may be in the beginning, but I do not know if that will continually be monitored in real time, but it will be recorded. And then, don't know how long that will be kept, those recordings, but I can find out.
And then if they see something untoward, what's the process? How do they act upon it?
They will alert, I'm sure, a police officer to meet the bus.
We can also ask John when he comes.
We can ask our speaker
Okay.
today, who should be
Fair
well
enough.
versed on all these things.
Thank you.
Sure, and Chief Kemper, when he spoke, I mean, it's a good and bad picture. Crime has been down in February and March, but there have been some really horrific crimes that have taken place in various locations. And in the last few days, they're all being well publicized, so everybody's aware of them. And it is just horrific. It may make us feel better that crime is down, but when we see these incidents that are taking place and the randomness of them, although one of the incidents in Brooklyn, the people knew each other. It wasn't just a random thing. And one told the other to stop smoking and that they weren't tolerating that and stabbed them. I mean, it's just anything goes today. I know that we are looking at possible metal detectors.
I was just at that.
Yes, and I'm going to ask Lisa to say which can detect a gun as apart from, because it has a massiveness and a size to it, as opposed to like a makeup case, which is metal, or a little key ring. So Lisa, do you want to just say what they said about these detectors?
Sure, I had to leave early because they started late. But John, that's where John's on his way from. If you've been to a sporting event, or a concert or something like that, they're the kind of detectors where you don't have to take things out of your pockets, but when you walk through, it can tell if you have a weapon, a gun or a knife. It would differentiate between an umbrella.
Does it detect shape? Is that what it is? Or size? Shape.
Yeah,
Oh, that's great.
It's a 90-day waiting period. The mayor said that he was invoking the Polk Act, which allows for the use of technology in it's either in crime or in the city. So there's a 90-day waiting period, which I think affords an opportunity to ask and have answered questions. He said that there will not be using facial recognition, that there will not be invasion of privacy. These are all things that I'm sure will be asked a lot over the next 90 days. There are cameras on them. They're pretty cool looking. I don't know about the deployment. It was probably discussed more. I have no idea how much they cost. That was probably discussed more. We're working on a statement shortly when we know more. But you know, but there's an opportunity to learn more and see, but it's not just we're going to put metal detectors in the subway. It's also vastly increasing the size and investment in the scout teams. And the governor's talked also about tremendously increasing investment in mental health services. The people at this event today were from the spectrum of partnership and involved in putting this in the safety of transit riders, including the health department, the deputy mayors, the MTA, the police, the clinicians who will be involved in working with those who need assistance. So it's really, it's not, you know, there's a lot of tools in the toolbox, not just a hammer. Everything isn't a nail. So they're proposing this, see how it works.
But what's the legality if it's a dense object of stopping individual and searching individual?
That's.
What's
I guess they feel like they have that.
Police approaches me. Can I speak to you? No. No what?
Then I think you get to turn around and leave the system. I think it's like a bag search.
Well, what is the legality of it though?
I don't know.
Did I have the right to search the person?
I don't know.
Yeah.
I think it depends. We can ask Ms. McCarthy, but I think it depends on what
It reads density.
the signal that was sent.
It says it's density.
Yes.
Well, you can tell if you're walking in with a bottle of
Well,
water.
it reads density.
Yeah.
The gun is dense.
Well, and the shape.
The shape, yeah, it reads shapes, which is great.
But what if someone just simply walks to another entrance?
Yeah.
Oh, that's.
Yeah. I don't know if they're gonna be at every
Which is
entrance.
what they do when they see the bag checks now, some of them.
This was a conversation I actually had with somebody before this started. We don't know where they're gonna be and if they're gonna be at all entrances. We don't know.
I never found a weapon in somebody's bag, just so you know.
Right, exactly.
They
That,
do bag checks. I never found a weapon in somebody's bag.
It's on their person.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No one said, hold on, let me shoot you. You can go in my bag.
The question is, if you have these detectors at stations and you don't have a police officer at that particular station, how do you?
Well, if you
oh, they
do,
have to be staffed. I mean, that's the
but
only
if
way
you
I
have to be
would
staffed
say.
too, the question is, what can he do?
Or her.
Or
Absolutely.
What can she,
Let's not do pronouns.
What can
Go ahead.
they-
What can they do? Right. What
What
can
can he
the
do?
officer do? That's, don't know. As I said, I had to leave early.
Well, I
I'm sure that there were, this is a nationally covered event. So I'm sure that a lot of these questions were asked, but I wasn't, I mean, I stayed for part of Jano's presentation or comments, but that was, I didn't even get to stay for the police commissioners. Because I'm sure that some of these questions were asked.
Yeah, all right.
All right, I have one other item.
can I just say?
Go ahead, Trudy.
about it? I think it's more of a psychological and literally a PR thing, just to say that you're going to do it. Somebody wants to get away with carrying a gun, they'll figure out a way to do it. But it is just to maybe scare off, I don't know, if scare off is, but just to get some people not to carry weapons on the subways. I don't think that anything, somebody really wants to carry a gun, they're gonna find a way
I mean, you
to.
know, yeah, of course.
So when the law was changed about having weapons in certain places that are now prohibited, is the subway covered under?
Yes.
It is.
Yes.
It's so.
Times Square, the
Even
subway,
if you have a
near
concealed carry
schools,
permit use, it's one of the restricted places.
I believe so.
So if somebody with a legal gun
Yeah,
can't get in the subway,
that's what I'm asking.
but someone with an illegal gun can go wherever he wants. Do we see?
It's a mindset there,
Do
isn't
we
it?
see a problem here?
Right.
And somebody,
That's pretty.
once they have it and somebody beats it, they'll put it on social media. I had a gun and they didn't even catch me.
Just went to the other.
Yeah. Anyway, we also got an update on CBTC. And I learned something which I've been pestering them about, which is really great, which is while there is CBTC work progressing on Queens Boulevard East, Queens Boulevard West, the Culver line, the 8th Avenue line, and the trains aren't getting the advantage of that because the whole lines are not converted yet. The fact is that while they're doing this, they are fixing a lot of interlockings, which is a benefit that everybody realizes well before CBTC is turned on those lines. So I was very pleased to hear that. I know this happened near Briarwood. They've done a interlocking replacement. They're doing it near Avenue X on the Culver line.
Yes, they did.
They're doing a lot of these interlocking replacements, which is great news for regular riders, not even served by CBTC yet. So I was very pleased to hear that. So sometimes we do get, we pester them and we do get some good news. So that's great.
Andrew,
Yes.
just to add in, because you mentioned the F line, it's not just Avenue X was interlocked was being replaced, it was also
Kings Highway, and they were replacing the broken track that the F got derailed at Neptune, which they did fix. And now it runs a little more quieter. You don't hear it jumping up and down like a da-dun-da-dun-dun. It's actually coming into.
Yeah, no, those major improvements. And of course, a big announcement that everybody is cheering is that starting April 1st, F and M train service resumes in its normal path through the 63rd Street and 53rd Street tunnels. And that should make things a lot easier for commuters. And so that is wonderful.
Oh,
And what perfect timing
brought a special guest.
Hi.
Welcome. I already knew she was coming.
We have been collecting questions all day. Grab some water. Oh, lock the door, sorry.
How's everybody doing?
Good.
We're doing well. We've given everybody updates on everything and we did have some questions raised, which I believe they will be forwarding to you.
That's
If you want to have some water, we can.
No, we can, and hi, everybody on Zoom. See. There's some-
John McCarthy and Shanifa Riera have joined us. We're fortunate to have a twosome now and
Kate, hi, Kate. Went to the 20th floor because I live on the 20th floor.
Yeah.
Right, and
We used to be there, but we were told that that room is booked. If you tell us that it's empty, but just tell us
it's not, no, they actually had something there. So I spoke for 10 minutes to the employee orientation group.
Oh,
No.
so actually, I think that PCAC should be part of the employee orientation.
There you go. Okay,
Second that emotion.
there you go. We'll know that. So,
so a lot of news that you would,
Yeah.
I'm sure you would like to talk about.
yeah, well, first, we were, in addition to going over to the place where this is usually held, but we were a little delayed, and I think, Lisa, did I see you up there?
I was there.
Yeah, so we were up at
I've been-
Fulton Street. The mayor made an announcement with the police commissioner and deputy mayor, Banks, and transit chief was there, and our chairman was there. And it was related to safety and security in the subway system, which is always top of mind, but especially top of mind with some recent high profile events. So the bottom line announcement was, first, they want to look at some new technology that would be tested as a pilot in the coming weeks. I think there's a period of like
90 days.
yeah, where they have to socialize it first and explain it. But what this will test is if there's someone bringing a weapon, a gun into the system, it would set off an alarm. It's really, these are the sort of moments where, government is looking for what are our options, what can work. And so, and this is where you find out maybe some things don't work. So, we'll see it. We'll make sure everybody here knows where these are.
It detects shape.
Yeah, it detects shape
And
and
heft,
I don't know about it. Does
thickness.
it was, they ran police officers through. Some of them had guns, some of them didn't. The ones who had a gun, a red beep went off. So it's sort of the technology that sometimes you might see at arenas and stuff where you're coming in through. So they're trying to make sure they're not slowing down the process of people entering the system while, maintaining its safety. So that's good. We should be looking at these things. But the other area that they discussed, and we discussed yesterday at the board meeting, are innovations that are not necessarily technology, but it's really like people who can do better things. And that is Scout, putting money into Scout and making sure the clinicians are there. If you didn't see the board meeting yesterday.
I gave an update on.
Yeah, and it's okay. So I won't go into it, but Jeremy Fagelson, who's on our team, who's a retired law partner for one of the big firms in the city, who came to work with us and is really committed to making sure this works. He's really making a difference, and he's working with City Hall. And so they discussed that as well. So there's a lot that can be done in the technology front, but there also is like good old fashioned, approaching issues, having a way to solve it that involves experts in those fields and making sure you have the right people. And the third thing that came up is a position that we're hiring for, which is criminal justice advocate position. We've been doing this in-house all along, but it really didn't live in one place. You'd hear us talking about a case that we're tracking closely, that we're working with the district attorneys on to make sure that their attention is paid, the attention that is necessary. Well, we're going to have a person, they're going to make sure that they're supported, someone that you guys are going to want a liaison with, because this is really about not having crimes against our employees and our customers fall through the cracks. And then you read about it. And this isn't like, we're not looking for headlines. We're not looking to point fingers at you, but far too often it's after the fact, we learn, oh, how did this happen? How did this person slip through the cracks? It's just So instead of asking the question all the time, we're trying to have something in place. And you saw us.
That speaks to Chief Kemper's message about recidivism and how 35 perps have committed like 1,100.
Yeah, it's a real issue. And we saw, we were up in the Bronx, the weeks are sort of
Last
blending
week,
in.
yeah.
It was last week where one of our station agents.
Anthony Nelson.
Anthony Nelson, 2022 was assaulted. And this wasn't just going up last week. We've been going up to the courthouse and working with the district attorney knows we're there. And she has, it as part of the hearing that took place that day. We were up there with TWU was well represented, Local 100. Janet was there, Rich Davey and others, myself. And the prosecutors put forward, as they were pushing this out to the next date, as they were trying to come up with, maybe there's an opportunity to sort of come up with some arrangement where they would get the defendant help, but also, push for maximum penalties. I was struck by the insistence that the prosecutor said anything that we do here is going to the district attorney herself, like she's signing. You can tell how seriously the district attorney in the Bronx is taking it. That's good news. We love to hear that. So that's in a nutshell from today's announcement. So, and then Shanifa also had an announcement that some of you were at. So today.
So today, thank you, Lisa and Christopher, for showing up this morning. Today is our Fair Fares Day of Action, where we have deployed the Army of the Willing across the city at 5 locations, again, to push and not only promote fair fares, but doing on-site enrollment. As we all know, Fair Fare is one of New York City's best kept secret. And since, the chairman has, sort of felt the seat in understanding the plight of our customers and grappled with fare evasion, this is something that we have been constantly talking to City Hall, as well as the City Council. And thank you all for your advocacy, whether it's been at press conferences or rallies, so forth and so on. But we have been beating the drumbeat. Today is a public way of that we're going out and doing it across the city, but we have been doing it constantly week after week, sitting down with our partners at DSS. So we have been using our 16 customer service centers in the station, educating our station agents and equipping them with brochures and pamphlets around fair fares. But we have also we're using 2 locations, Coney Island, Stillwell, and Roosevelt Jackson Heights, as enrollment locations. And my goal and dream by the end of the year is to use all of our 16 locations to do monthly enrollment. And my bigger goal is for DSS to give us the ability in using our station agents across throughout the system, because they have the iPads and they have the equipment to just do enrollment and not, really relying on DSS. So that is happening. And again, thank you all for your collective partnership. And the struggle continues, because raising the income eligibility level is just, that is going to be the key and the critical part of it. And through our collective outreach, we have grown the program. And I think we now have like about 370,000 people enrolled, which is a record for DHS.
Are we advertising the Fair Fares program on the screens?
We are advertising
it everywhere now.
screens, because before, me sort of coming into the space, we relied on the city to do ad buys. So now we are using our own digital screens throughout the system. And then also, still putting up old school posters, where, especially in those neighborhoods, because we have sort of mapped it out and we know where the eligibility levels are. And then, coupled with announcements, so we're doing that.
Can you sign up online if someone chooses to do that?
You can sign up online, but then also, people still have lots of questions. But then, but there's nothing like a human
No.
interaction. And and the other thing, again, while we are happy that enrollment is growing and education and awareness about the program is growing, we still, want people to use it because people do sign up. And then people using it, it's still pretty low. So that's why we think raising the eligibility rate could be helpful to capture those who, like students and other low-income workers.
I'll say that there were a lot of people today who were really interested in
Yes.
this and taking flyers and asked questions. And one woman said, are my children eligible? They're 18, 21, and
Yes.
24. And I was like, I think so.
Yes.
But you should go ask the people at the table. I would suggest putting,
Lisa,
I'm sorry, Trudy, I'm in the middle of a sentence. Accessoride.
Okay,
Also.
yes.
Because there were some people who asked about that too, and it is obviously.
Yes,
valid, but
agree.
can we get back to fair fares for a minute?
We are talking about fair fares right now.
Part of the accessory.
And then the other piece to that is that sort of complements the campaign is that, ID NYC is part of, form of identification that we are using for reduced fare programs. So we hope you have also seen those ads on digital screens, letting people know that they can use that form
I've seen.
of identification to sign up for these reduced fare programs.
Trudy, you have a question?
Yeah, knowing David Jones for a long time, and when I worked in the city and then through various other things, and seeing a lot of people at CSS.
Yeah.
Has he been and since I believe that fair fares was his
Yes.
idea to begin with, that is he using CSS has a wonderful communications network and everything else. And I'm just wondering if he is using, or would it be proper for him to ask him to use his whole CSS network to try to get the word out about fair?
Yeah, David Jones and CSS is a partner we do everything in concert with CSS. As you said, he is sort of the godfather of the program. So we have, he has, continued.
And they just did their report.
They did the report. He continues to lend his voice to the cause. He is aware of today's day of action and super supportive. He's going to try to make a stop at one of the locations, if not going to try to come up to 116th later. But yes, he is. We're working with him.
What I'm asking is not just David, he's wonderful.
Yeah, we're working with David, Jeffrey.
CSS, using the whole CSS communicate, they have such a vast communicate for their own programs and for what they do. And are we asking him, or is he using that whole, on top of everything that you've talked about, to get the word out about fair fares?
Yes.
And they did, when they released their report, it was really focused on helping. It was talked about fair fares, but it also really looked at what it would mean to expand it to 200%. The federal poverty level, which is a proposal in the assembly, which we're promoting to encourage to get into the Senate side too.
Yeah.
And which we had to 5 out in the city council so that they can increase the baseline. The assembly includes funding. But the Senate doesn't. So but they make a really great argument for it.
And this is not happening in a vacuum, and the same with the city council. I spoke with the council speaker yesterday, and she and her team have pushed out the message on today's day of action, as well as the city council, sort of listing the locations that we're at today doing outreach. So it is a true partnership. And this, again, we will continue to do these sort of in-station programming as we do with partner with President Davey. He does his bi-weekly transit talk, and our Fair Fares partners are built in that. If you go out to any of his transit talks, we have a Fair Fares table where we do on-site enrolling. So Fair Fares is part of everything that we do as far as getting the word out and promoting the program.
And you got my favorite question today.
Can you ask a question? What's the average number of times a week a fair fare user uses?
I would say, I mean, weekly, I would say, break it down monthly. I mean, it's very little. I would say a couple of times a month, to be quite honest. And oftentimes those people that are using it, it's like maybe to a medical appointment or to some sort of appointment, but the income threshold is so low that a lot of these folks, you know, they don't, you know, have opportunities to travel with, and that's why we think expanding those who are could be under the umbrella will go a lot further.
One of the recommendations in that blue ribbon panel on payment evasion was also to send fare fares with a couple of rides on it.
Yeah.
Because it comes blank.
Yeah.
So
That's the
you
other
have to
part.
get, you have to get to, yeah, you have to get to a van or station to fill it.
Yeah.
So that,
Who's leading the fight in the Assembly and the Senate for the 200%, you know, raising it up to 200?
Well,
it's not on the Senate side yet, so we are.
Yeah.
For the advocates in the Assembly and the Senate, even if they haven't put their name.
Well, we are.
Yeah.
Oh, I am talking
But Trudy, yeah, I understand your question. So in the, you know, this is part of their budget, one house, so it's not with a name.
It's just the Assembly in one house. It's in the one. Who's leading the fight?
No, there are leaders in the Assembly who are very focused on transit.
Do you have any names? This is for my own benefit, because I can make some of my nudge calls, which
There's no bill number.
Yeah, there's no bill number.
We're gonna talk about that.
But look, our committee chair, who's now retiring, Zabrowski, is out of Rockland County.
He's retiring, he's
Yeah,
28.
Well, not retired,
Right.
retired from this. Yeah, and he, you know, he's his young kids, so he's not retired.
I know, but.
But he's the chair of jurisdiction. And so he's very much a thought leader on transportation issues, and has been a great ally. And so he's an important voice in that caucus. And certainly there are others who are, you know, and you guys can go through the names, but that are very focused on getting more.
I just thought there might be one person who is like the point person on the 200.
He said there wasn't, so can we get that question?
I have a question.
I go first.
Hi, my name is Kalia. Hi.
Good to see you again.
Me
Yeah.
too. My question is, you know, like you said, it's New York's best kept secret. In terms of advertising, the changes and upgrades, are we using apps like Access HRA and are in the schools and, you know, making advertisements so that people know
Yeah.
that there is a change now, and go ahead and apply again, because you might have, you may have been denied before, and now you have access now. So
Yeah, so that is underway, especially with the slight change to the income level. We, you know, in part of my, you know, bi-weekly conversations with City Hall, because again, like we are doing our part, and I give a laundry list because, you know, in an effort for me to hold people accountable, I, you know, I'm showing them that this is a partnership. So they have outreach teams, you know, there are events that happened across the city in different gatherings. So we always ask, you know, what venues are you going to promote their fairs? And they're very open in showing that. I mean, the unfortunate part is, like, I am obsessed with this program and have gone out to different events that they are tabling at. And, you know, and the Fair Fairs brochure information is one of a whole host of city programs and opportunity, which is fine. But, you know, we are still, you know, in talks with the from the deputy mayor when they host their agency executive staff meetings. You know, the words are out to commissioners to sort of promote and highlight, and we're trying to get an in the school so they can, you know, the students can go home and, you know, tell their parents, and making partnerships with the, the community, the student coordinator to get these flyers or information home to the kids. So we are trying to do everything with City Hall and others to get the word out. But if you have other thoughts and ideas, I welcome them.
Don't forget the library.
Yes, yes, the libraries too, yes,
We've asked elected officials to include information in their newsletters
yes.
and in their town halls as
Yeah,
well.
yeah, and I've even asked like the parks, I've even asked the Parks Department to put a banner, because they, you know, as they approach the summer, they advertise free lunch programs, like there is no reason why they can't.
Yeah.
promote this.
Yeah, I have two questions. One, I know Debbie wrote it on the chat, but I'm just gonna add. As you know, there are still seniors out there also, you know, after they come to age 65, they still have the same issue, low income.
Yeah,
There is still an issue because, thank you, Lisa, for mentioning Accessoride. But once they become 65, let's say they are still using Accessoride, it is difficult for them, some of them can't afford, I'm
Yeah.
only saying some. Still have to pay the $290.
Yeah.
And we know it's not MTA's fault, because even Debbie has put it in the chat, it's not your guys' fault, but it's the previous mayor as well as HRA, that they're forgetting that seniors also, who also may still have a disability, to return at a certain age, have that issue to get forward, to get on the Accessoride, because it's still, they have to pay the $290. So if there's something in the future, we can work on that on Accessoride. The other question, I know thank God we did pass about the congestion pricing. When we do get ready to do the switching in, can we have the list of the prices for reduced fare price for seniors and people with disabilities who are traveling by car, who are transporting someone? Because I know Korea mentioned it earlier.
Wait, hold on, let's finish fares and then let's go to congestion.
So noted. Then I'll just go back to the fare part.
Okay.
I know I mentioned at the press today about, you know, the Accessoride for people with disabilities. 50%, they pay the $1.45 when they sign up for the fares. But seniors don't have that access, who are low income, because some of us who are low income cannot afford it. So can we try to do something on that?
yeah, we can, we'll take a look.
Okay, any other fares questions? Karen, Karen? And then-
Yes, quick
so
question
hold on.
about,
Hold on
Oh,
one
sorry.
second, Karen. Do you guys have a hard stop? Because we had questions about the metal detector announcement today, and we have some questions about congestion.
Sure.
So, do you have a hard stop?
Well, eventually.
Yeah,
It's not-
yeah.
We all have that.
Kind of.
Not all of it.
Let me.
Okay.
Yeah.
So,
wife expects me home for dinner.
I always have a hard stop.
right, yeah, yes.
But
So, all right, Karen, go ahead.
sure, the question was, or is there enrollment at New York Public Library or any of the library locations for the fairfares?
There is not any sort of standing enrollment. What I have asked is, you know, for them to have information disseminated or publicly available, but that is something that we can throw on the wish list for DSS to execute on.
And Karen, we're trying to make sure that this becomes part of the suite of information
Yeah.
that people who are, you know, either they're hitting a milestone in their life or are participate in another program where this becomes just the norm, where it's like,
Yeah.
oh, have you signed up for this?
Yes.
And we had a great meeting with Senator Kruger on this, where, you know, she was telling stories just about even like, when she started out in the payment of utility bills,
Yeah.
making it easier for people to understand how, and then it becomes something that is pro forma.
Yeah, which we've explored in having conversations with Con Ed and other utilities company to see if we can put a blurb on their.
Or actually a flyer in the, when the bills go out.
So that was.
Not some that they will actually see, because it's not just part of anything else.
Okay, we have, Maddie, you've had your hand up for a while. Is this related to fares?
No, but I'll go back, but you can call me at a later time, Lisa.
Thank you so much. Andrew, fares?
More scout, I wasn't sure.
Okay, let's go back.
Okay.
Okay, we're done with fares?
Especially fairfares. Is it possible to have people that are automatically on a certain income level, like if they qualify for Social Security or HRA, you know, any city agency help, that they automatically are qualified for it, that is offered to them? Are we making an effort for the agencies? Because as you know, all the agencies in New York have a 5-year plan then this has to be a part, this should be a part of their 5-year plan to include this in there.
So from an HRA standpoint, from what I understand is that, you know, they know like who is eligible and who's not. Because again, a lot of our customers come by way of these various safety net programs. So we have gotten HRA to commit to, they have been active or proactively, I should say, texting and calling those customers or, you know, our riders who are eligible to promote the Fair Fares program. So there has been some interest and some enrollment they've been able to capture. So the other piece, which, you know, with talking to the chairman and John and others internally, we need them to go a step further. You know, we have, you know, the city has a bunch of amazing like outreach teams and employees, you know, who are eligible, you know, who are in these programs and who qualify. You go to their homes for different reasons. Why not sort of have Fair Fares in the toolkit of one of many programs that they're, you know, going to pitch. So those conversations are progressing, but of course, you know, they are looking at it through the lens of, you know, funding these teams and all this other piece, but it is on the table and is constantly being discussed.
Can we reach out to you all for materials to take with us?
Absolutely, yes.
Know
We
where
have,
we are, because we're everywhere as
Yes.
advocates, right?
we have no shortage of materials, so we'll get them to you, yes.
One more suggestion. Just when when the fares change and they go up, there are car cards and everything.
Yes.
Posted all over the place, on subways and buses. Can we actually do a car card or a posting just about fare, giving the information so that if people who are using, you know, the system anyway.
Yeah.
And either they may even be eligible and they didn't know it, or they know people who might be eligible and it's scaring them right in the
Yeah,
face.
so the city has some advice, so there are some Fair Fares car cards, but we are also using our digital screens.
But I'm talking about the car, you know, right on in the subway car, in the
Yeah.
bus. Have you, is there anyone doing that? Attaching the attention of people who are using the system anyway.
I've seen some of them.
Yeah.
I've seen an increasing number of them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Especially they were on the car 68A on the beach when I was on.
Okay.
Well, I'm only going that I haven't seen any.
Okay.
Okay.
That's why.
But more is always better.
Yes,
Okay.
noted.
Okay.
Let's move into the congestion pricing.
I think let's go to metal detectors, because I think there were a couple questions about that. There were a couple questions about that, and there are probably more questions about congestion pricing.
How about metal detectors for cars?
Yeah.
Very good.
But that, the metal leaves off of license plates, right?
That would-
So some of the questions that were raised were the, where they'll be deployed, how that'll be determined, if they'll be staffed, the legality of getting somebody, if a weapon, if somebody's determined to potentially have a weapon.
So if they get a hit,
Yeah,
the police officer's there. Does he have reasonable suspicion to approach the person? And does he have probable cause to search the person?
so,
If the person says, I can't be bothered right now, I'm going to work.
yeah, I think
Where-
they will have to publish the rules of that.
So what are they?
So, and I don't know yet.
Okay,
I don't know that
okay.
they've published those yet but they will have them with the system. But I understand the question. It's like ordinarily, if there's a reason, you know, to believe that something has occurred or something
Well, yeah.
is about to occur, that they have enough to stop someone.
But where does that stand?
Yeah, so I think they'll have pretty strict guidelines about giving an individual the opportunity to choose not to go in there, and choosing not to go in there is, my understanding, will not be used as, you know, some sort of probable cause to detain someone. So but. you
Like,
know, I will let
if you don't want your bag
yeah,
searched.
yeah, it's same as the bags. So those are pretty strict rules. But again, this is a pilot, and those questions before it is turned on.
Of course, they have to be-
They're not
they have
even
to be
turned
addressed
on
before,
yet,
yeah,
so they'll be addressed. I think today is like, hey, we're gonna put these out there.
Do we know how many?
I don't think they had come down with an answer
Yeah,
yet.
not yet.
But and then what they'll do is they will determine, different stations to test these at. But there is the ability to move them around very quickly. So I really want to leave it to be like, they come up with a real team that's figuring this out. At the precedent today, they had their, I think their general counsel there to discuss how they're approaching these questions. So not to we're responsible for almost everything in transit. In this case, we really want to, the NYPD is taking the lead on this technology testing, and so we'll be a good partner and work with them. But any issues I can.
So there are no answers yet for that.
No, not yet, but
Okay.
they may have them,
All right.
but they will certainly be out there before anything is up and running. So those are all very important.
And we'll use that information to push out to our customers,
Yeah.
especially in our customer service centers, because we, as with anything that we do snooze, there is incoming, and we'll have lots of questions for answers.
Okay.
Stuart has a question. Is this the first system in the United States that'll have this? Sorry, I'll squeeze that in before you.
I don't know. I don't know the answer.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sorry, Stuart.
Once they figure out which stations
Yeah.
they're gonna have them at, stations have multiple entrances.
Sure.
Is there thought in this planning of making sure that when you're targeting a particular station, that you're covering the other entrance?
Yeah, and so I think that would be getting ahead because they are not looking, they're looking to test the technology first before accepting it as a technology that will, do that job of prevention at a specific station. I think they're very much in the learning. And then the next thing you would do is they would go out to the marketplace to see who makes this in addition to the one they're testing. So it's very much that early stage. I don't want to, again, I'm not the leading expert in this.
It's a real pilot.
Yeah, a lot of times, sometimes I will have conversations with Lisa about pilots, and, a lot of times, it's pilot is code word for let's shut the door. This is happening. And for something to be truly a pilot, you have to see what the warts are, what works, what doesn't work. And so I want to give them that chance. There are things that are more cut and dry, where you can tell, okay, this is a pilot more for maybe political reasons to see if this is something that works, or is it an attractive thing because it's more in the marketing pilot as opposed to a safety and security thing. Really, does this work? How does it work? And
We've got some of those other kinds of pilots for you.
I know you do. Yes. There you go.
Thank you. Does anybody else have a question about that? Scout, Andrew, you had a Scout related question, which is related to this, and there was.
Sure. Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, the other day, I was out training and there were issues and stuff where I wound up, that I then found out from Chris, there was a rider insulin issue and stuff, and then I think it was on the tracks, whatever. And it's
Talking about Beverly Road.
Yeah.
is Scout going to be able to handle also those type of issues where it's not so much a mental health thing, it's just a medical, I think that's where I'm going with.
Yeah, well, so look, Scout is very labor intensive, right? So you have these dedicated teams, and what's changing here is these teams they're intense training, and their focus is on the hardest of hard cases. So I think if there's something right in front of them, we have 3 officers assigned, they're gonna, do what they have to do as far as other calls. But, the focus is to make sure that these scout teams, which are, there's 2 and we're growing them to 10, that they're going to the places where they're most needed. So.
But I'm saying it's not just going to be quote unquote, mental health.
No, that
It is only
yeah, no,
mental health.
that is what they're,
It's only
yes,
mental.
yes. Yeah, I'm sorry. Yeah, no, that is their focus. And in order for it to succeed, we need them to remain focused on that. There are other resources that would deal with, whether it's EMT, FDNY, NYPD with.
I have a question.
So is this drawn out, is Scout drawn out? I asked Lisa this earlier. Is this drawn out of the mental health roadmap that's being led by Councilmember Lee and the city council? Is it like a carve out of that? And is the budget coming out of that?
So I would say the genesis of Scout began through, lots of conversations, especially seeing what was happening within the system and, whether through the city council or the mayor's subway safety plan, we all know about BRC and their mission and, to go out and the level of engagement that they are doing with, the homeless, as well as those struggling with mentally ill. Scout was generated and created by the MTA, and their goal is to focus on, as John mentioned, the most chronic cases of, under, looking at of the mental health cases. So this is not a city council or, city hall initiative per se. I mean, we do have, our partnership is with city hall as far as we're working with, Department of Health and the hospital corporation as well, and funding, which is great from the governor's team, but it's not from the city council.
Yeah, you may remember I think it's a year and a half ago, the governor announced what's called SOS teams.
Yeah.
And they were out there with clinicians, police officers, and they were looking at similar cases and getting folks who are having issues out of the system and then setting them up so that they can either find housing or institutional health, hospitals, et cetera. What Scout is, it's taking that to the next level.
Yeah.
And so what we put together, and the governor has supported both financially and politically, is, hey, we can take this where it's so hyper dedicated, where these clinicians are staying with this person throughout the day to make sure that they get the help they need. These are folks, and in this case, there's sometimes going to be an involuntary admission. So that's the key difference.
And they follow up.
Yes.
Yes,
they follow up.
yeah, they don't
So
do, yeah.
it's taking it to another level. It's more limited. It's intense resources. So. But
So the mission for Scout through transit, was their mission to minimize some of the crime and the homelessness and address the mental health issues separate and aside from NYPD trying to address, this issue? Transit taking this project on is very special.
yeah, it is, but it's just on top of this. This is to make sure that these cases are not, in the system and are not being addressed. So it's not, this isn't someone who's committed crimes. He's not involved. This might be someone who's sitting there.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of issues. There's an article in the Daily News maybe a year and a half ago, and it was tracking the case of a person who died on a bench, just sitting.
At the G train.
Yeah.
And it just,
On the G, yeah.
yeah, and it was, there's a lot of, pointing fingers, there's so many different agencies. This is making sure that doesn't happen. So.
A few other questions.
I also have my hand up.
Okay, wait, Scott, I think you had a question, then Chris, then Stuart, and then we've
And then
got,
we'll go to the
then we'll
screen.
go to the.
Yeah.
It's a great concept, it is. But the mental health system as a whole is broken. Person goes in, they track him, they get hospitalized, they get treated, they get medicated, they come back out. Treatment falls off, they stop taking medications. And I've seen this, I'm a retired police officer, I've seen this a bunch of times. They fall back right to where they were.
Yeah.
And it starts over again. So it's a great concept on the level of the MTA, but once it gets out of the MTA's hands, they fall into the revolving mental health system.
And that's the difference with Scout. There isn't that drop off, and then there is a
No,
continuum.
no, it's not a
yeah.
drop off with Scout, but it's a
No,
drop
yeah.
off with the mental
Well,
health
no,
system.
overall, but I mean, I think like the purpose of this, based off of, we all are users of the system and we see it, we're impacted by it, we hear about it from our customers. So we think, with this partnership, which does not provide the MTA insight, you know, because given like HIPAA
Oh, HIPAA
laws and everything else.
You can only follow through a certain.
Yeah, so that's why having partners, you know, forging those partnerships with the health providers and the advocates, and that is sort of those who mandated
I
it.
don't think the hospital can tell you they were released.
Yeah, no, well, so through the way Scout is set up, like, while we don't know as far as like medical information, but we do know, you know, on any given moment that this person is still admitted, they're in treatment, and if they're ready to be discharged, then we are aware of, you know, as the aftercare, or where will they be placed? Will they be placed in shelter? Do they have, you know, a long-term bed or a housing situation? So, you know, there is a continuum of tracking these folks.
But you just want to see them rotate back in.
Yeah. But that's what we're hoping
Exactly.
Scout does not do, unlike the other programs.
Okay,
Chris?
Thank you.
No problem.
One thing, just want to add that part of that group that you're working on also deals with not just mental health, also people with developmental disabilities also, because they have been helping that out too. Just want to make that clear, because as the person spoke yesterday, mentioned New York State mental health, which they also work with the Office of People with Developmental Disabilities, since I wear that other hat as well.
Sure.
And they have a very good relationship with them, because I have seen them. They work really well, they communicate them, they talk one-on-one. And with the officers, it's also given the officers an additional training, because when I used to go, and as well as my mother and I used to go into the police academy trainings, which I know Jesse is also on it. We teach them, we learn from them, they learn from us, like switching data information. But it is going to be, this is something I was really glad to hear yesterday. And I think, as I told people yesterday, I want to hear the person what they're saying, because it wasn't hard, but it's about time we hear this, because in the past, even before COVID, we had a lot of those issues and it wasn't addressed enough, and it needs to be addressed much more.
thank you. Stuart?
Right, so prior to you joining us, we were getting a briefing on the Scout pilot and the 90 or so people that they've reached. But do you have a sense of the number of people that are truly in need of this attention? You know, separating them from the number of homeless in general, which are, I guess, is estimated at about 2,000.
It's
Do we know what number?
Thousands.
well,
Thousands.
you know, on any given day, there's upwards of 1,000, I believe.
Yes.
I just don't know that they would fall into the case. So the benefit of this team is like the clinicians are so sophisticated in their training that they're identifying what they would consider the hardest of hard cases. And I think Jeremy talked about it yesterday, where, you know, a layperson eyeballing the situation might say, this is really bad, what's going on? They will have a conversation. They're like, no, this is, so, you know, the question of the number that was put forward as to people who are assistant, those are not all involuntary cases. Some of them took voluntary help, but the involuntary number, that's a small subset, thank God, but you know, it's probably in the hundreds. And so reaching those people is critical, and then staying with them. So that's a subset of that number.
Because, you know, reaching one person, that's a success story, but you want to know, when you look at the effectiveness of the initiative, you know, whether you're.
Yeah, of course, but it's an acceptance. I think that you have to go, it's man-to-man defense, kind of like you have to go.
Thank you.
Yeah, just let me take care of these who've had their hands up for so long.
Yeah, but I'm on the board.
I know.
It's a very quick question.
Yeah, of course.
Okay, as many people around this table, especially Andrew, know, I had a mentally ill sister, and there were books written about her and everything else. And because of that, I was on the board of NAMI, both national and New York State. And I know the work that NAMI does. And I'm just, NAMI, for those of you who don't know, is the National Alliance for the Mentally Ill. And New York NAMI is really good. I'm just wondering, has NAMI been brought into this at all? Because would seem like a natural program for
Yeah,
both New York NAMI, if not national NAMI, then certainly.
we'll flag it for Jeremy, but he's, Jeremy's been, very, has a long history of, in this space. Prior to even joining the MTA and his, as a lawyer who has voluntary capacity with the Bar Association in the city of New York. So we'll raise it.
Or maybe I should say, having had in my personal life, such a long experience with NAMI, maybe, well, I'll talk to you about that.
Yeah, we'll flag it.
Offline. I'll talk to him about offline. And maybe, but I would like to, actually, now that you bring him up, well, we can talk about this offline, John, okay?
We'll follow us and see. I can see Kate taking notes, even though I know that she's writing down all the follow-up. I'm sure.
Deborah?
I'll mute.
Thank you. I am. Thank you, Chris. Okay. Okay, Trudy, I'm sorry about your sister. I want you to know, besides myself having
Don't
anxiety.
be sorry. That's.
Excuse me,
Okay.
Trudy, stop already.
Ladies,
I'm very
ladies.
polite to you.
Okay, guys, let's just move
Okay,
on.
now, as I
on.
was trying to say, the problem also
Everyone.
happens with a lot of family members.
Oh, she froze.
You're frozen and we can't really hear you,
We have
Deborah.
Because
children
she's
with
leading on.
disability, the stress we go under.
Deborah, you're frozen.
Deborah.
Sorry.
Her system just went offline.
Okay.
She's mentioning about, I can answer this quick. She's mentioning, because Trudy, she agrees with what you're saying. She's mentioning her brother who has mental illness as well. It is not an easy challenge. And I can give you that more detail later, but I know right now her system Wi-Fi is acting up. because of
Nobody
this.
has suggested it's easy.
Is there a question?
I didn't get the rest. I'm just quick.
Okay, let's
But
move on.
I can tell her
When
to
she
text me.
unfreezes, we'll ask her. Maddie, please go on.
Maddie, is this related to the scout team?
Well, in relation to the scout team, you mentioned metal detectors. If that's related, then yes.
Okay.
If you mentioned earlier, because, I did read the statement, I think the chairman applauded the decision on it though. But, there's much more. We need to ban, those who are repeated offenders though. And we need to work out partners, our district attorneys. But, you're gonna have to do more than that, doing bag search. You have to put x-ray machines, metal detectors, even metal detector wands for that matter.
You mentioned Charlton DeSouza's question.
Well, there was that, we were talking about their pilot program for metal detectors at some stations, that more information will be coming about.
Yeah.
Oh, do you know if we're gonna do with x-ray machines and stuff, like at the airport?
It's something, it's more like what you go through if you're going to a sporting event or a concert. You
And
don't
not
have
at
to
an
take,
airport.
you don't have to take everything out of your pockets
Yeah.
or your shoes off.
You know what that would do to throughput?
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, but they're probably gonna have to search
We
with
have
a
4
wand or
million people a day
something.
on the subway. I mean,
And hopefully.
We don't want them to take pictures. Okay, so
All right.
under congestion pricing,
Sure.
Scott had a question about the FDR.
Well, can I just
Yes.
start?
Oh, absolutely.
Yes.
Because,
Big day.
take a moment to step back, and I know there's always going to be questions about this detail and that detail, but it's an extraordinary event yesterday.
That was someone else.
And I just want to say the chair, Jano Lieber, being on the team, he'll take us aside, and from day one as chair, he's been saying, we will tackle the hard things. And it's just a mantra. It's like, tackle the hard things. Now, the easy things are, that's anybody can do. Let's tackle the hard. And that's happened. Remember the budget last year. That's changing the way funding and transit. Everybody else is trying to follow that. Opening Grand Central, that was a pain in the ass. Right. Think about it. There are people here who've been know about this project for a long time, and they thought it would always be 6 years away, right? Opening that. And then you have this congestion pricing thing we talked about for many, many years. Traffic hasn't gone away, right?
Gotten worse.
It's gotten worse. And so the other thing I want to say in addition to doing the hard things is what makes the hard things easier, and it's voices, right? And I want to thank you for your voices Because as much as we like to tackle the hard things, we don't like to tackle them alone. And it becomes a lot easier when there are people who are willing to lend their voices and make things better as it goes along, even if it's not perfect. Everything we've seen over the last years is making this a better program. Because remember, like I worked in the Bloomberg administration, this was something that was put forward then and put forward even earlier. So before we jump into questions, I just want to, and I know many of you saw this piece in the Times, but it hit home for me. And this is Mara Gay. I'm just going to read it, and it's just a quick paragraph. And this speaks to you guys. In the final accounting, supporters of the plan, a group that over the years has included New Yorkers from Mayor Michael Bloomberg to ordinary subway riders who voiced support to the MTA, appear to be the stronger coalition. In recent months, Governor Kathy Hochul has pushed hard for the plan too. If it succeeds, it will be a refreshing example of the progress that good government and steady civic pressure can bring. It's very, like, it was, it's just beautifully worded and it speaks to what so many in this room and beyond this room have done over the years. So thank you. And now ask the tough questions.
The FDR Drive, it closes 5 days a week.
Yes.
For accidents.
Yes,
I'm coming down from Manhattan, go to the Battery Tunnel, go to Brooklyn.
yes.
There's an accident. I get diverted off on 52nd Street. I just got charged $15 and I wasn't intending.
Yes,
go into the zone.
yes, that is the situation. So it's, again, this is a plan that is, its goal is to reduce congestion. And it's not going to be accepting of situations outside, this is outside of the city, this is outside of the congestion zone, the FDR. So, we can sit here and talk about each hypothetical that would force someone into the central business district.
So there's going to be hypotheticals as you go
Yeah,
along.
there's always going to be hypotheticals where that is not ideal. But we'll work through them. And I think the idea of monitoring this and being open to publishing data to better understand it will allow us to always reevaluate it. So the circumstances that you described should not be frequent, right? But
It's the FDR Drive. It's 5 times a week.
But if somebody is pushed off the FDR five times a week because there's a broken down vehicle, then that's a situation that goes beyond congestion.
Yeah.
That is a
Yeah, but so
situation.
what's the answer? I just got charged $15. I had no intention of going there.
Of course, but the FDR is not, I'll look into, I don't want to comment on my understanding of diversions off the FDR today when there's accidents and whether or not they try to isolate the accident and start moving traffic, which has been my experience.
Well, they do try to
Yeah.
immediately, but if you go forced off, you're paying the money.
Would there be a way to turn the machine off for an hour if something happened?
I don't, I'm not,
You're not technical.
yeah, we're not.
If you could alert motorists far enough ahead, they could get off it outside the zone, go over to the West Side Highway or Henry Hudson Parkway and come down that way.
Yeah, but let's not forget that the purpose is to avoid non-essential drives into the central business district regardless. And we're reducing traffic all around this zone in addition to within this. This is the idea, get people out of cars if they can and get them into mass transit, or allow people who are using cars because they have to move more quickly. And one of the things that gets lost over and over in this conversation is the role of the business community in their strong support of congestion pricing, because it makes more sense financially for the city of New York, the region, to be able to move products around, to move essential workers, or getting through this congested zone more quickly is good news for business. It's good news for people who have to use it. And that sometimes gets lost, but I think you heard it yesterday, and to the extent anybody was able to catch the voices of our board members, they were very strong. I think they made a lot of sense. And I was struck by Mark Herbst, who's the new board member from Suffolk County, who represents the contractor association and understands the value of time and the movement of products and being able to move them quickly. And I was struck by his comments where he talked about taking, he wasn't on the board, right? When this was voted on by the state of New York and put into law. He wasn't on the board when it was, the environmental process was moving forward. But he's on the board now and he took the documents, he looked at the record and reviewed it and came to a conclusion that the proper work had been done, due diligence had been done, and this is a good plan. And that's, that was important because it's a new, fresh set of eyes saying it's not someone who feels an obligation because they voted for the capital program. That included this money, so you might feel like you should probably, although not everybody did.
And his county executive is not necessarily the strongest supporter.
No, but had the wisdom to put someone on who is open-minded and I think that that's something to be said about that county executive. So anyway, those were important comments and that's, and that's the good news coming out of yesterday.
Question for you.
Yes.
But hold on, before you go, are there any of the members who have?
Yes,
Yes.
Okay, sorry.
very short, yeah. And I was asked this by a neighbor of mine who can very well afford all of this, but he owns a big company, but he has to go, he takes the FDR and then goes to the Queens Midtown Tunnel. There is no way, which I didn't even realize, to go direct to the Midtown Tunnel. That you have to get off the FDR and then go to Second Avenue, which puts you in the congestion zone.
Yeah.
So, and I know there's a $5 discount. Is it a $5 discount?
Yes.
And I told that to him.
Yeah.
And he said, why should there be any, it's just, there's not a direct route. So why should I even have to pay anything? And I said, you can well afford it.
Yeah.
He said, well, there were a lot of people, I'm speaking for the people, and I said,
Yeah.
so I said I would bring that up.
Yeah, a lot of like the conversations about where the congestion zone is and where that congestion is within the zone. It really is on the edges.
It's
So when
at the
somebody
top.
says like, hey, I just come
Right
in
at the
at Second
tunnel.
Avenue and
Right at the bridge.
so.
But they can't get into
Yeah.
the tunnel
But they
without
can get
going
over the Brooklyn Bridge.
So I look out the window on the 20th floor and at 4 o'clock, like clockwork, you see the buildup on the entrance to the battery tunnel.
Yeah.
So if someone were to say, oh, I zipped off the FDR, I, took one block off into, and then went on to into the battery tunnel, it's like, yeah, that is congestion. That is.
And that's the congestion. So you're in the congestion.
Yeah, you're in the
And
congestion.
Even if you
with
don't
the
want to
tunnel.
be.
Right, same with it going into the tunnel, which is, I call my basement. The line of cars trying to get into that, it goes 3 blocks before you can get, you can't even make the lights.
But if you're trying to avoid congestion and you're going out of the congestion zone, I mean, I'm telling you what I just said,
But they're
look, you're
going
getting a
into the
discount.
tunnel, so that's, they could tell him he can go down the FDR to the Brooklyn Bridge,
I told him.
to the Brooklyn Bridge for free.
So I'll introduce you to this person.
Yeah.
I have
Right.
Yeah.
the people I've had this
So
conversation.
It was taken into consideration.
Yeah, I think this is not only by us, this is the state law, and it's important to go back to that. I'm not a lawmaker, but in 2019, they not only said, do this, but they put the parameters, they drew the congestion.
Oh, I understand
So
that. No,
It's, the wisdom of.
John, you don't have to go
Yeah.
through all of this.
I
I promised I would bring it up. I have. Thank you.
And
Thank you.
Christopher has a question, and let's go to Kalia or Maddie and then Kalia.
Well, either way, as you know, I was glad it passed because it was, I know Edith fought for it. But now I wanted to ask this main question I was trying to say earlier. Once we get all the price numbers, on a leaflet, can we make sure we have the reduced fare price? Because for the last few months, everyone is driving me out there, not in this room, out there, but Sugarnut.
Yeah, yes.
Crazy. Because trying to explain to them, it's like talking to them, it's like talking to a brick wall. And explain to them that if you're not driving a car right now, not talking about everyone else, I'm talking about those people who are driving me crazy.
That's your question.
I'm,
I'm sorry, Chris, we're really short on time.
I'm trying to go fast, but if I get cut off, I lose my point. Let me focus on what I'm trying to say, please. If we can get the information out as soon before June or whatever, can we please share it?
Absolutely.
Yes.
Thank you.
The good news is qualifying vehicles transporting a person who has a disability are exempt. So and then what we'll be putting out in April is how do you sign up, et cetera. So
That was a question that we had earlier as well, how to do that.
yeah, so
Maddie, you have
a web presence and it'll.
Great. Thank you. Maddie, you have a congestion pricing related question.
Yeah, yes, I do. Well, I did speak yesterday as well as most of you, or some of you did. It ultimately was voted 11 to 1 with Commissioners Fleischer and Zuckerman. But it's a question and a statement. I'm not sure. But
We just have time for your question today, though.
Okay, though, then I'll save it for another time then.
You can ask a question,
You can ask a
Maddie.
question, Maddie.
Just get right to it if you would.
Please.
All right. All right, thanks. Well, I know the PCAC, I know they'll oppose any attempt to repeal the congestion pricing law, though.
Yes.
Is that true? Because I know Governor Hochul said she would veto any attempt, though, to repeal it. That's a quote. But if God forbid, because we could have, because I mean, this could get, cut off, depending on who's in the White House, next year,
But I don't think it would be rescinded.
Yes, Maddie, we're
lawsuits.
scheduled to start in June. There are lawsuits that are active right now, but all those lawsuits have dates that are before our go live date, which will be June. So hopefully those are all,
Is there a new lawsuit from Rockland County yesterday?
Did they join one or is it?
They start their own.
They started their own.
They like Delashire.
And they announced.
Okay, we've got, Daily Delashire.
Ed Day.
Ed Daily Delashire.
Yeah.
But don't just edit. Sorry, okay, Khalid, real quick, and then Stuart, you wrapping this up because they've got to go. We've got to wrap this up.
It's very, very quick, and I think it addresses something Jesse has his hand raised about. Can you talk a little bit about the budgeting going towards accessibility? Passengers with disabilities. I think that I read, somewhere that asked the same question that I have.
Yeah, no, that's.
Jen will say.
Yeah.
At a press conference, that was one of the first things he said. This is about accessibility.
Very much so. The 2024 capital program, which is being in large part over 30% funded with this money, is the largest dedicated funding to accessibility that this MTA has ever had. And we've already started that work. Many of those stations have already opened, but there's a whole chunk of stations that are waiting for this funding to get freed up. So that 70 new ADA stations, well.
I do know.
Yeah, no,
Definitely.
So this will pay for many of those that are still waiting to start. We are beyond excited. We've done more in the last, I think, 3 to 4 years than the prior 2 to 3 capital programs. So, and it's never enough, right? We want accessibility. It's this is mass transit. Everybody should have the opportunity to use it and feel comfortable. And when people are older and less able to do stairs, they want to use this. It's not like they decide I don't want to take the subway anymore. My parents, they like to take the subway. They need an elevator. So
that's accessibility.
Yeah. So it's a big part of the capital program, and congestion pricing is a big part of funding that capital program. So no question. Yeah.
Super. And Stuart, take us home.
I'll take you home. So
No pressure, Stuart.
just a little. Our concern as a body was, if the timeline wasn't moving, capital projects would be deferred and costs would rise. So this is a first hurdle. Hopefully the suits will conclude but you've turned on the readers and you have preliminary data. Sort of, looking at that, do you think we're realizing the estimates of the funding coming in with the traffic pattern right now?
So the readers that are up there, we're not yet doing, those are not.
It was announced at a prior meeting.
Yeah,
that
but
they
they're not,
were
we
gonna-
don't have data. Who's saying that we have data? Okay.
Some of the news stations.
Yeah, so when we will find out if those numbers are hitting the numbers we thought is when the program is up and running. The modeling that was done, there's a lot of confidence in it. The FHWA is certainly confident in it. And that is showing that we will have a decrease in congestion while still having because the law, which requires us to raise enough to bond out for $50 billion. So we will watch that closely. And you have to achieve all those goals. We want to see less traffic. That's.
There's an opportunity to take a look preliminarily at something.
Yeah, I'll.
Something that should be done and shared back with the board here.
The open data, right?
Yes, we are.
Less traffic, cleaner air, and a better transit system.
Yep. And safer streets.
And safer streets. More accessible on the back of the t-shirt.
Yes.
Okay, super. Thank everybody
you so
here
much.
so much.
Thank you for
Awesome.
having us.
Thank you.
Always nice to.
Cookies.
Thank you.
Yeah, you want to cook.
Close to it. Out of 4 seconds.
Yeah.
I don't want to take the last decade.
Why?
We have this.
Yeah.
Thank you.
All right, have a good weekend.
Eat the cookie up and call it a night.
Thank you so much.
You two have a good Friday.
Yes.
Have a Good Friday. Okay,
Awesome.
moving on to the executive director report.
So everything they just said. No. So I was at the Fair Fairs event this morning and had the opportunity to also talk about some of the important efforts that are underway in our office, which we're thrilled about. And Jack and Kara have just been monumentally moving us in the right direction. We and Andrew and Jerry went to Albany and Karen with some of our colleagues in advocacy last Wednesday in support of the fair, in support of two things. Broader representation, which would in support of allowing our 3 representatives to the MTA board to give them the right to vote. Which we do not currently have. We've got a voice but not a vote. The only MTA board members who are required to ride transit don't have a vote. So there's a lot of traction there. It was a very well represented press event and launch rally that we're just thrilled is moving forward, and the budget will be late. That gives us a little more time to get that in there, but we have to the end of the legislative session.
What do we have, like at least 50
Yeah.
50 elected officials signing on to the legislation, which is great.
Yeah, and
Between both houses.
between both houses, and Assemblymember Denowitz has just put out a letter asking for support among the assembly, his assembly colleagues, and Senator Gennardis, who's on the Senate side doing this, is doing the same.
And Senator Conley
Actually already did.
And Senator Comrie has signed on as well. The other thing that we're really actively supporting and pushing for in the budget is known as the FAIRS Act in the Senate. And that is 3 very common sense, or as I call 3 sensical proposals that include funding. And I had a conversation with John about that this morning. It could be pilots, John, but one is fair fares on the commuter rails, which we think should be funded by the city. Fair fares in general, 200%, which is included in the assembly. On the assembly side, in their one house, as we discussed earlier, a city ticket weekly, which we believe should be funded by the Outer Borough Transit account, and allowing seniors and disabled Medicare eligible riders to use their discounts in the morning peak across the MTA system. The only time when they're not, when those fares are not applicable. And the Senate has included $40 million in their aid to localities in the budget for that. So we're thrilled that there's traction there. Marisol, I was hoping Marisol would be on today, but the Bronx Borough President is sending a letter to Speaker Hasty in support of those proposals and asking that, and to the colleagues in the Assembly, asking that they support it as well. And we will be getting a copy of that and sharing that too. And we are in our ongoing conversations with elected officials, really pushing that out there. So we'll have some, if you are so inclined, we will have some language available for you to reach out to your elected officials in support of the Fairs Act and sensical fairs. That you don't have to use that word. Yeah.
Yeah, I was like, what?
Fairs,
Make up words.
rider discounts, that will make transit more equitable, affordable and accessible. And sensible, across the system, but particularly within the city, and really open new doors to opportunity. So that is.
Weekly city ticket is a no-brainer. If you have commuter rail, bus and subway paid for, you're not gonna drive.
And can you imagine a city ticket weekly with fair fares?
It will sell like hot.
That's how you have to couch it. You know, we're in this mode now of reducing congestion.
Yeah. Exactly.
That'll do it in
It's
one fell
it's a
swoop.
tool
It is.
that aids.
Yep.
That.
When I was at the event this morning, one of the.
It's the basis of our freedom ticket, you know?
Right, it was, and when I was at the event this morning in New York, I did speak at the mics, and then New York One reporter asked Rich Davy, well, what about city ticket and fare on the commuter rails? And he goes, oh, my jurisdiction ends here. And I was like, I went up to the guy, and which is true.
Yeah, it does.
But I went up to the guy, to the reporter, and I was like, I would love to talk to you about this. So I spoke to him about it. I also spoke to some of the transit workers who work at the customer service booth. He goes, that is the best idea.
Yeah, I saw that.
If you say you pay $7 one way on a city ticket, and then you transfer to the subway, it's an additional $2.90. Right?
$10.
Yeah, so that's each way. Or if you could do that in a weekly, with a weekly, then that just saves you money. And if your fares eligible, particularly if it's at 200%, then that is just like game changer for so many people.
We're not crazy.
We may be crazy, but these ideas are not.
Yeah, we'll take it a step at a time. You know, let's get the weekly and then let's get the.
No, we're pushing for all of them.
All of them.
Senator Comrie is our champion in this. He called me yesterday, sort of randomly. And we had a conversation about status, and then the three of us spoke to some staff folks on the Assembly side who said that they've had a lot of conversations about fair fares. So we're hoping that this is a part of it, but it's definitely an active conversation in Albany. So every voice matters regardless of the situation.
He called you randomly instead of Lisa?
He just, yeah.
Lisa's a nicer name.
Other activities in the office, we this afternoon have an interview with somebody for associate director, so we're gonna ask you all to at 2:00 so we can get them ready. And hopefully we'll be able to progress to the next level and steps next week. And Karen had a question about
Safety preparations leading up to the eclipse.
preparation. Okay, so preparation leading up to the eclipse. I had a conversation with some folks at Metro North yesterday and asked them what they're doing. Because, Amtrak is doing these packages. Some of them are as expensive as $4,000.
Yeah.
For that, you can sleep in a train car that's parked in siding and then wake up really early and, no, thank you. And I asked Metro North what they're doing, and they said, well, we're not doing anything. And I said, well, why not? And they said, because it's not 100% here. I said, I know, but the farther north you go, if they're doing events in state parks that are in Brooklyn and Queens, that's not Metro North, obviously. But if you go to Poughkeepsie, you have a better opportunity. So why not go take Metro North to Poughkeepsie, go to the bridge. And so they're gonna look into it, so.
Long Island Railroad, I mean, that's where you're able to pick up the classes in the city. That's the only place is Long Island Railroad at Penn Station.
Really?
Moynihan train hall. That's I Love New York website. They've been saying you get two pairs at the Long Island Railroad.
But I don't think you see totality unless you're west of Syracuse.
I agree.
Yeah, but it's still something. It's better than none.
Yeah. All that talking about the Yankee game also, it's gonna be in the middle of the eclipse.
Angle,
What
yeah.
is,
Northern Maine, yeah. Right.
it's gonna be it's not gonna be pitch black in New York City.
No.
Upstate.
From a safety standpoint with the messaging around the eclipse.
Buffalo is the center.
It's not gonna
Oh, yeah,
be, I
Buffalo
mean,
would be great.
I think that it's not gonna be pitch black here, and
I
if it
wouldn't
is,
wanna
it's
go
gonna
to
be for
Buffalo
like
for
5
anything.
minutes. The last time there was an eclipse,
Don't tell that.
I was working downtown
Down.
and the streets were flooded with people sharing their glasses, it's pre-COVID, obviously, sharing their glasses. A bunch of us were out, with our little pinpoints, and our pieces of paper, looking at the shadow on the ground. It was so fun and festive and collegial, and just everybody having it was like a party out on the street, because it was a shared community and a shared event. Times have changed, but I anticipate that there will still be that kind of an opportunity.
The thing, it's gonna right with the eclipse is gonna happen right in the middle of the Yankee game.
And one thing nobody knows is what the weather's gonna be like that day.
Exactly.
Maybe
Yeah.
totally overcast and all of this is
Kate
for
still
naught.
has, Kate still has a person we gave her that day. It was a delight. That's where she got hers. Yep. And as Bucky said, in case we don't get to, we're blue for Autism Awareness Month in April. So, the eclipse is April 8th and, yeah. Okay, that is my report. We will share that information with you. The MTA is also looking for people to speak in support of, of congestion pricing for some short videos. I will share that information.
All right, I think we are
Business.
up to old business.
We'll keep it short. Stations are beginning to look grimy again. And I'll speak with Lisa offline about what I've seen.
When did they stop being
the Sixth and Eighth Avenue line, so.
It's human powered, human resulted, right? I mean, people are pigs.
No disagreement. But I did see something surprising, that on one of the Eighth Avenue stations, 14th Street, there's actually somebody physically mopping.
Yeah, I saw that the other day too.
Yeah, but in general, it's regressing back to.
If you have a particular sentence, yes,
And move things along.
thank you. And I'll reach out to stations.
Yes, let us know specific stations in mind.
Also, if you see fare evasion and you report it to a police officer that you see and they don't do anything or they shrug like I've seen, please try to get a badge number for me. Thank you.
Andrew, did you ever do follow up on the incident that I reported to you, then you offline, you can.
I didn't get a satisfactory result, so.
Well, okay, we'll talk offline then, as long as you followed up.
Any other old business? If not, we will move to new business.
Andrew, I have new business. When lately, since I was also there in Atlantic also, but talking about fares, but we were also, what I'm also seeing lately, and I agree with what they would Stewart, but there is something I've been seeing that a lot of stations are getting more LED lights on the line.
LED, yes.
Yes, because Seventh Avenue now has the LD now on the beach. LED, and I'm starting to see it more, not just on the G line, but I'm seeing it in
It's
all
gonna be done
different
in the whole
worlds.
system.
It's gonna be done the entire system.
No, but-
It'll take 2 years.
Maybe, well.
Every passageway, every station, every entrance.
Yes,
It'll be brighter and cheaper. That's the best thing you could have.
brighter, it's
Well,
better.
brighter, but it's
Yeah.
also cheaper for them to operate.
Yeah, no, you're right about it's cheaper, but I'm just saying
It's less electric, yep.
yes, but there is some stations outside that may work some areas. They might have to put additional lighting like on the Brighton line, like some people are claiming it's a little too
When you
dark.
say on the outside, you mean on the platform level, like,
Yeah.
and
The platform levels.
Like the Brighton line has,
Yeah, like Avenue J, Avenue U, Neck Road.
Beverly, tell you like those?
They're not there yet still. They didn't, I'm talking about the newer stations.
Okay.
So I'm just saying that we definitely need to remind them that they may need to put a little more because if they're gonna use the cameras on the near the tracks, it's not gonna be a good clear shot.
Okay, if you have particular stations in mind.
I just said the stations names from H through Nick Road.
Okay,
And then on new business.
Yes.
Which is new old business. Remember, we saw the gangway cars, and when we had our tour, they talked about the stairs and other ways of accessing the track. So has there been any follow-up discussion about the restrictions?
No, they express track continue to run them local only.
No, but I'm saying we were given a different bill of goods about the ability to use the trains on any line, whether it's local or express. Have we heard back?
President Davy has stated, when he got the last shipment of R211Ts, that they will only be on local service because you can't access the track.
Well, he said it was his decision. I asked him, I said, well, I know that when we saw the trains, that you could go down because we saw the steps and we saw
Right,
that, and he said, it's my decision.
right.
That it's that the report was incorrect.
So they're just making a policy
I don't know if it's for forever, but that's it for now.
at this time.
Yes,
Okay.
Buying a lot of cars.
not as many open gangway as the regular 211As, no.
But the R211T is running really well.
And I predicted somebody would ride a bike down the middle and it's already happened.
It's already been done.
Already been done.
Really?
Absolutely.
I saw.
I knew somebody couldn't wait to post that on social media. Yep.
You left something out.
Anything else? Scooters.
Do
Scooters.
they say anything to you about what they're doing to try and curb surfing?
That's actually one good thing about the open gangway cars. You can't access the roof. That is one benefit, but I keep asking them to place sensors they have, celebrities doing these announcements in the
Well, they're
stations. That's not
teenagers.
stopping anybody.
They're teenagers, so they're peers.
I've also asked them, and they said they're looking into it, believe it or not, into having a celebrity do announcements about how it is not cool to be fair.
They've done that already. They have it, it doesn't make any difference.
No, it's
It's
not.
their internet. The kids think it's cool
Right.
to surf and to post it.
Yep.
And they've worked with some of the social media firms to take them down to, right, but.
Seeing no other.
We should be vigilant.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Thank you all.
Thank you so
Oh,
much.
wait. Sorry to interrupt. Be sure to wear blue for Autism Awareness Month on April 25th for that meeting and for the 29th and 30th for the MTA board meeting. That's all. I have to
Okay.
Thanks,
Thanks,
Maddie.
Maddie. Bye-bye. Oh, wait, thank you for saying that. Our next TRC meeting will actually be held on Wednesday, April 24th.
That's
Instead,
before the board meeting and everything.
which will be the 29th and 30th.
Yeah.
It's the 30th, it's on my birthday.
I'll be an official
Oh, that's
member
the
by
birthday
then.
Jerry
That's
Seinfeld.
Governor finally.
Yeah.
Wow.
And you know, and he can wear any color he wants on his birthday.
Happy birthday, Chris. Oh, it's
Okay,
his
so,
birthday the same as Jerry
we'll send out
Seinfeld, you know?
We'll send, yep, thank you.
Daddy,
We'll
I'm going
send
to
out
tell you.
Thank
we'll
you.
send out
Don't
a
bother me.
reminder for the date. Thank you.
Right, happy Eastern Passover.
Thank you too.
Right.
Bye.
Bye, buddy. Bye.
Bye.
Right.